Becoming a K-pop idol is incredibly difficult and a dream come true for many people, but some idols have managed to throw away years of hard work with shocking controversies and ended up destroying their own careers. Among these is, without a doubt, former Super Junior member Kangin, who has faced so many scandals that most people remember him for his controversies rather than his music career. Born in 1985, he made his debut in the K-pop industry as a member of Super Junior in 2005 and immediately became known among fans for his great performances and his warm smile. People also loved seeing him on variety shows, but this popularity actually led to Kangin's first controversy. The scandal exploded in 2007 as a conflict between Super Junior's company, SM Entertainment, and broadcaster MBC. Back then, Kangin was a regular host for the MBC show Sunday Night Dong'an Club, but SM insisted on moving him to the SBS program Explorers of the Human Body. As a result of this dispute, MBC banned Super Junior from all their programs and removed Kangin from his position as the MC of show Music Core. Kangin was also forced to leave other MBC programs he was working on, and after his departure, 2 of these were cancelled due to low ratings. Meanwhile, MBC demanded an apology from SM, threatening to ban all their artists from their programs. In the end, it seems like the conflict was solved pretty quickly, and a week after the dispute began, Super Junior was invited on an MBC show with the director of the TV channel claiming that their ban was never made official. Despite the fact that he was at the center of the dispute, the controversy wasn't Kangin's fault and his career continued without further issues. However, things were much different when Kangin was hit by much more serious scandals 2 years later. On September 16, 2009, Kangin was arrested after being involved in a fight outside a bar in Seoul. According to eyewitnesses, the altercation began when 2 men arrived at the bar and entered the room where Kangin and his friends were. Kangin started arguing with the 2 men, and when he left the bar, they followed him outside. The situation quickly degenerated when Kangin and one of the men involved threw punches and kicked each other in the street in front of the bar. One of Kangin's friends reportedly tried to stop the fight, but ended up becoming involved in the physical altercation himself. As a result of this incident, 7 people were brought in by the police for questioning and were then charged with committing acts of violence. One of the men involved insisted that Kangin attacked him first, but according to the police reconstruction, this wasn't the case. After looking through surveillance camera footage, the authorities reported that Kangin tried to keep himself out of the fight and ultimately acted in self-defense. Despite this, Kangin's involvement in the fight hurt his career, as he was removed from his position as the main model of a fashion show and all his activities were postponed. Kangin didn't even have time to recover from this incident, as just a month later, he was in trouble once again. On October 16, 2009, at around 3 a.m., Kangin collided with his car into 2 parked taxis and then left the scene of the accident. Reportedly, 2 taxi drivers were inside the parked cars with their passengers when the accident happened, but luckily, they were all unharmed. A few hours later, Kangin turned himself in at a local police station, where it was verified that his blood alcohol content was above the legal limit. Kangin was supposed to return to the police station later that day for further investigation, but he failed to show up and had to be called in the following day. Shortly after, SM released a public apology, and all Kangin's activities until the end of the year were cancelled. However, 1 month later, he appeared as the face of a clothing website, and netizens were outraged. The company claimed that the photos were taken before Kangin's DUI accident, but netizens still argued that releasing the pictures meant breaking his suspension, so the photos were taken down. The following January, Kangin was formally indicted for his DUI hit-and-run incident and was sentenced to pay a fine of around 8 million won. With his involvement in a fight and his indictment for DUI, Kangin's reputation was ruined in the span of a few weeks, and he went into indefinite hiatus. Then he decided to step away from the spotlight for a while, enlisting in the military for his mandatory service in July 2010. He was discharged in April 2012, and after a 3-year hiatus, he rejoined Super Junior, resuming his music career the following July. However, he soon caused some trouble once again. After his discharge from the military, he was assigned to 72 hours of mandatory reserve military training to be completed over 2 years, but he didn't attend a single training session. In 2015, the police investigated Kangin, who claimed that he was unable to participate in the training due to his busy schedule. What made this scandal worse is that at the time, Kangin was participating in the TV program Real Men, a variety show that dealt with military experience. Kangin was ultimately indicted without detention, and the TV show producers decided that he wouldn't be removed from the program. With one scandal after another, it seems like Kangin just couldn't stay away from trouble, but he somehow managed to make things even worse when he was involved in another DUI accident on May 24, 2016. This time, he crashed his car into a street lamp while intoxicated, and once again, he fled the scene. According to the police report, no one was injured in the accident, but since the street lamp fell onto the street and the sidewalk, The damage was enough to affect local traffic. Eyewitnesses called the police and told officials that Kangin was responsible for the accident. A few hours later, Kangin went to the police, where officials found that his blood alcohol content was high enough to cause a suspension of his driving license. When questioned by the police, Kangin even admitted that he struggled to recall the accident, claiming that he knew he had hit something, but he didn't realize that it was a street lamp. Following this accident, SM canceled all Kangin's activities, and he was once again forced to go on an indefinite hiatus. A few weeks later, Kangin was formally indicted for DUI, and in September 2016, he was sentenced to pay a fine of 7 million won. By this point, Kangin had already destroyed his reputation with his numerous legal issues, and netizens didn't trust him anymore. Some people thought that he might return after some time away from the spotlight, but instead, he was involved in one more scandal that dealt a final blow to his career. At around 4 a.m. on November 17, 2017, Kangin was arrested after reportedly attacking a woman outside a restaurant. That night, a person called the police claiming that they saw that Kangin was drunk and was attacking his girlfriend. The officials brought Kangin to the police station for questioning, and the woman confirmed that she was indeed his girlfriend. According to the police report, the altercation was a result of a minor dispute between Kangin and his partner and was apparently solved with the two reconciling. In the end, the woman didn't press charges, so Kangin was released with a simple warning. Another police report later added more details, stating that the incident took place outside a bar and adding that the woman claimed to be Kangin's girlfriend, but neither Kangin nor his agency ever confirmed that this was true. SM released a statement apologizing for the incident, but at this point, people had had enough of Kangin and how he kept causing trouble. Following his DUI accident in 2016, fans of Super Junior started a petition to remove Kangin from the group, arguing that his unlawful acts were damaging their reputation. While this petition gained some traction online, SM didn't go as far as removing Kangin and only put him on hiatus. Fans' request to kick Kangin out of Super Junior re-emerged after he was involved in another altercation in 2017, with countless people saying that he was disgracing the group's name and he should just leave. Once again, SM ignored these requests, while Kangin remained on indefinite hiatus. In April 2019, Kangin once again made headlines for all the wrong reasons, as it was rumored that he was a member of the chat rooms run by Jung Jun-young, in which illegal hidden camera footage was shared. His agency stated that while it's true that Kangin knew Jun-young and was once in a chat room with him, he never filmed or distributed any illegal content. The police later confirmed that Kangin had been in a chat room with Jun-young, but there was no evidence of him committing illegal acts, so he wasn't summoned for questioning. The following month, it was surprisingly announced that Kangin was about to make his comeback to the entertainment world after almost 3 years, acting in the web drama What Happened to Mire. There were also rumors that Kangin would be joining Super Junior once again for their next album, but on July 11, 2019, Kangin announced that he was officially leaving the group. In his statement, he explained that he made this decision after realizing that his countless issues were impacting the other members of the group too. He later added that seeing his name mentioned in the chat room scandal was the last straw, and at that point, he started discussing his exit from the group with his agency. However, even though he left Super Junior, he remained under contract with SM. For years, Kangin has mostly remained out of the spotlight, only sporadically appearing in public or on some online content. Since 2024, it seems like Kangin is attempting a comeback as he renewed his contract with SM and joined messaging app Bubble. In April 2025, Kangin surprised everyone by holding a fan meeting in Mexico. Reactions to his attempted comeback have been mixed, and while some Super Junior fans are eager to welcome him back, most people just don't want to see him anymore, citing his numerous problems with the law. Do you think he can ever recover from his many controversies and return to the entertainment world? Share your opinions down below in the comment section, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to find out more about unbelievable scandals in the K-pop industry. Next up, Kiss of Life serves as a modern example, showing how decisions and public perception can spiral out of control, completely altering the trajectory of a promising career. Kiss of Life had been steadily rising as one of the most successful groups of K-pop's 5th generation, with each comeback bringing in more fans and their sales and streaming numbers continuously increasing. However, that momentum took a sudden turn after Julie's birthday livestream, which led many fans to withdraw their support, leaving the group's future uncertain and sparking discussions about where they go from here. From the start, Kiss of Life made it clear that they were creating their own path, not just following trends. Even before their official debut, they took an unconventional approach by introducing each each member through solo releases, allowing their individuality to shine before coming together for their self-titled mini-album. The members themselves also attracted plenty of interest. Natty had already gained recognition from competing on 16, the survival show that launched twice, and Idol School, and though she didn't make the final lineup, she later debuted as a soloist. Julie spent 3 years training under the Black label before moving to S2 Entertainment, while Belle, the daughter of 90s singer Shim Shin, had already made a name for herself in the industry by writing songs for artists like Le Seraphim, Purple Kiss, and Mion. She was also credited for background vocals on tracks like Le Seraphim's Unforgiven and Mark's Child, both of which drew significant attention. Coming from a smaller company, S2 Entertainment, they weren't expected to make a big impact, but they quickly proved otherwise. Though their fusion of R&B and Western influences made them less mainstream in Korea at first, they gained massive traction internationally. Their album sales reflected this growing buzz. What started as 759 copies on day one skyrocketed to over 25,000, an unexpected leap for a rookie group. However, their debut wasn't without its share of controversy. Just weeks after they hit the stage, an old clip of Julie resurfaced, causing an uproar online. In the video, she was seen performing B.O.B's 2012 song Strange Clouds and rapping along to the N-word, sparking widespread criticism. Given that she was born and raised in Hawaii, many argued that she was fully aware of the word's offensive nature and that there was no excuse for using it. The backlash was swift and intense, leaving Julie with no choice but to address the situation. On July 22, 2023, she posted an apology on Twitter explaining that she hadn't paid close attention to the lyrics while singing the cover and deeply regretted her mistake. She went on to say, "This incident made me realize how my careless actions can cause harm to many people, and during my 6 years of training period, I educated myself and matured." Julie also seemed determined to be careful and thoughtful in the future, promising not to repeat the same mistake. In the end, she apologized to those hurt by her actions, vowing to improve and continue growing. Her apology was generally well received, with many appreciating her personal acknowledgement of the issue. Some fans felt it would have been better if the apology had come before her debut, but they were still glad she addressed it. While the scandal resurfaced occasionally, it didn't seem to significantly affect Kiss of Life's growing popularity. As they continued to develop their sound, Kiss of Life leaned more into R&B and hip-hop, further refining their unique style. Their tracks Nobody Knows and Midas Touch built on the success of Natty's solo hit Sugarcoat, which had already proven that these genres fit the group perfectly. By 2024, individual members began gaining recognition beyond the group. Natty joined forces with Jay Park on Taxi Blur, while Julie had a standout moment when she was featured on Twice's Nyeon's solo album NA. These collaborations not only showcased their individual talents, but also helped bring more eyes to the group. Additionally, their recent releases, Sticky and Igloo, along with their viral dance covers on TikTok, skyrocketed them to stardom, solidifying their place as one of the most adored groups of the generation. This is why fans were ecstatic to hear that they would have their next comeback in June, especially since it had been months since their last release, Lose Yourself, in October. Comments from K-pop fans said things like, "Summer 2025 will be theirs," and they're taking that Summer Queen's title very seriously. However, things took a turn on the day of Julie's birthday livestream, but even before it started, fans were already feeling a bit uneasy. The group had shared an e-invitation on social media a few hours prior to the event, which raised concerns right away. The dress code was listed as old school hip-hop, a choice that didn't sit well with many, given K-pop's long history of cultural insensitivity. Adding to the tension, Belle had posted something cryptic just days before, making fans even more wary about what was to come. She had sent a message on the fan platform bubble writing, "Please look forward to Julie Unnie's birthday content too, and promise you won't leave the fandom after watching it." At first, fans weren't sure what to make of Belle's vague post. Some assumed she was joking, while others thought she might have been exaggerating. But when the live stream happened on April 2nd, the reality was far worse than anyone expected. The members appeared wearing outfits and hairstyles that drew heavily from Black culture, including cornrows, bantu knots, oversized gold chains, and hats. As if that wasn't bad enough, they exaggerated their mannerisms, spoke in a way that mocked Black people, and even gave Belle the nickname Lil Taco Bell. Throughout the entire live stream, they didn't seem to realize or care how offensive their actions were, making no effort to stop or reconsider. Given this, the backlash was immediate, with both fans and non-fans calling them out for being disrespectful and taking things too far. A Twitter user wrote, "They would be nothing without Black people. Their music is nothing but a copy of what our people have already created hits with. For them to get on live and make a mockery of us for their tens of thousands of fans to laugh at is nasty." Many also argued that there was no excuse for their actions, or it couldn't even be said that they didn't know any better. Belle's bubble message alone suggested they were fully aware the livestream would spark backlash. She even asked fans not to leave the fandom because of it. Additionally, as mentioned, Julie had already faced criticism for saying the N-word and publicly apologized. And given that she grew up in Hawaii until she was 13, it was hard to believe she didn't understand the weight of her actions. Belle was also born in the US, making it even more unreasonable to assume ignorance played a role in what they did. Another user wrote, "I agree Kiss of Life should have known better, but have we considered that they did in fact know better and just don't care?" After everything unfolded, fans flooded the company with emails urging both the agency and the members to take responsibility and apologize. In a widely shared email template, the fans acknowledged that the group likely hadn't intended to be offensive, but still described the live stream as tone-deaf, inappropriate, and ignorant. They emphasized that even if the stereotypes were used unintentionally, they still carried harmful consequences that could damage the group's reputation. The message concluded with a clear demand for the members to issue a sincere apology and for all traces of the live stream to be removed. The apology the fans had been asking for came just a day later. On April 3rd, the company deleted the live stream from all platforms and released a statement claiming they never meant to offend anyone and that the live stream was meant to celebrate hip-hop culture, which has heavily influenced Kiss of Life's music. They admitted they had failed to recognize the negative cultural implications and promised to be more mindful when referencing other cultures in the future. The statement ended by reassuring fans that the live stream had been permanently removed. However, the apology only made things worse. Fans immediately disliked the fact that it was the company speaking, not the members themselves, which made it seem like an attempt to shield them from responsibility rather than an expression of genuine remorse. The wording also frustrated many. Rather than directly acknowledging the communities affected, the statement vaguely referred to certain races and the culture, avoiding any real accountability. One particular line, "We apologize for our shortcomings in recognizing the negative cultural implications that our content would be perceived," stood out as it seemed to shift the blame onto viewers for taking offense rather than admitting fault. Some speculated that this was all a marketing stunt, given that their comeback was announced on the same day as the live stream, but if that was the plan, it backfired spectacularly as they ended up driving fans away, with many publicly declaring they could no longer support the group. So while Kiss of Life were once seen as a group destined for success, many are now questioning what lies ahead for them. Some believe this controversy won't have a lasting impact, arguing that other idols and groups have done worse yet still maintain strong careers. They point out that history has shown time and again that certain fans will overlook insensitivity and cultural mockery when it comes to their favorite artists. However, others think this will leave a permanent mark. While disbandment seems out of the question, regaining the level of support they once had may be impossible. Unlike some groups with strong domestic followings, Kiss of Life relied heavily on their international fan base as their popularity soared with every viral hit and their members were widely adored by fans and non-fans. But now, many of those same fans are turning away, unwilling to support a group that took so much inspiration from Black culture only to mock it in return. Fan accounts dedicated to the group have already shut down, denouncing their actions, while others are shifting their attention to different artists. The true extent of the damage will likely be revealed in June when their comeback drops, but based on the overwhelming backlash, it's clear this won't be something they can easily move past. Following the scandal, the aftermath of Kiss of Life's controversy reveals the harsh consequences idols face once trust is broken and fans start turning away. Following Kiss of Life's wave of backlash over cultural insensitivity earlier in April, it hasn't been easy for them to return to the spotlight. Despite efforts to turn the page with new music and multiple public apologies, the aftermath has only deepened scrutiny of the group and called into question the authenticity of their response. Kiss of Life seemed to be on their way to becoming one of K-pop's most praised groups, as their music, concepts, and personalities were heavily praised by K-pop fans from all fandoms. So when the group's insensitive actions hit the internet, netizens were horrified. The controversy originally erupted after a live stream in which Kiss of Life members adopted exaggerated hip-hop slang and behavior widely seen as mimicking Black and Latino culture. It was clear that the birthday party celebrations were originally intended to be a funny spectacle, which is why it led to such international backlash, prompting the group and their agency to issue a series of apologies. The live stream was quickly deleted, and the members each released handwritten statements promising to educate themselves and do better. Unfortunately, despite their efforts, the damage had already been done, as many fans felt like there was little the group could do to earn back the trust they had lost. What made things even worse was the planned comeback, which followed not long after, and by the time of its June 9th release, the group had managed to issue 3 apologies, the most recent one being on May 31st, just over a week before their comeback. The live stream from Julie addressed the issue more directly and specifically named the Black and Latino communities who were most impacted. She spoke about the 2 months of reflection the group had gone through and emphasized that they were committed to not repeating the mistake. However, many fans online questioned the timing of this more in-depth apology. Coming just days before their comeback, it appeared strategic and even manipulative to some. Critics speculated that it was less about genuine growth and more about trying to minimize backlash in order to ensure better sales and fan support. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with Kiss of Life's return to the stage and more, and make sure to leave your thoughts on the matter down below. Ultimately, Kiss of Life's comeback only seemed to reignite the debate. While the group has always attempted to explore new musical styles, many pointed out that their new sound continues to draw heavy inspiration from Black music genres. Given the context of their earlier controversy, this felt like quite a big contradiction, as many believed the comeback wasn't handled with enough sensitivity. To make things worse, the group's newest B-side drop, Kpop, has been interpreted by some as a diss track, further fanning the flames with some of their lyrics. The lyrics seemingly alluding to the fact that the group doesn't care about being liked sparked huge controversy online, as it seemed like an extremely tone-deaf move. However, as many netizens also pointed out, the song seemed to be about an entirely different issue involving heartbreak. Even Julie later clarified that the song was directed at past lovers rather than critics, but unfortunately, the damage was already done. The idea that the group would release a song throwing shade at those hurt by their past actions, especially so soon after an apology, was enough to spark yet another round of debate, with netizens writing, "The song isn't about that, then they're just stupid for releasing it after a huge scandal because what?" However, it's not just about the lyrics either, as many fans have pointed out that their sound and concept still seem to be heavily inspired by Black culture, which many netizens have had a problem with, considering the disrespectful live stream. This, coupled with the way K-Bai could be interpreted, has seemingly turned even more observers against them. Netizens weren't just upset over the controversy itself, as the group also found themselves dealing with plagiarism accusations during their comeback promotions, adding even more fuel to the fire. As many pointed out, the teaser photos featuring the members posing on a bright glowing box set against a dark background bore a striking resemblance to ITZY's Kill My Doubt concept. The similarities were significant enough that many netizens could immediately see it, and it was heavily called out in online spaces. And with Kiss of Life still reeling from their previous scandal, there was little benefit of the doubt to go around. It seems like the group can do no right lately, and while their streaming numbers haven't been terrible, their online support seems to be at an all-time low, with their every move being criticized. While in the past, the group seemed to be supported even by casual fans, a huge chunk of those supporters seems to have disappeared after their continuous scandals, leaving them more vulnerable than ever. While in the past, the group might have been praised for their attempts to push boundaries or protected from such plagiarism allegations, they are now interpreted as desperate cries for attention, even when the intentions are clarified, like with K-Bai. However, the backlash hasn't just been focused on their new concept, as many netizens have also had a particular problem with the way their performances look. The visual choices have seemingly stirred further backlash, this time with fans and netizens alike calling out the group for provocative choreography, suggestive styling, and questionable stage antics. At the heart of this new wave of criticism is the choreography for their title track Lips Hips Kiss. One particular move, where the members pull on their bra straps mid-performance, was singled out as inappropriate, as some netizens saw it as extremely suggestive. Even Belle and Natty's nose kiss was seen as a little too much for some. Although K-pop has long walked a fine line with suggestive performances, especially when it comes to female performers, many netizens felt that this was a step too far. The choreography was quickly labeled as unnecessary, especially given that Kiss of Life is still navigating a fragile recovery from their previous scandal. Some comments even pointed out how this was something that many other groups have been trying to stray away from over the years. A netizen wrote, "Third-gen seniors like Twice and G-Friend worked so hard to get rid of this kind of stuff, and now choreo like this is creeping back in." Some fans also took the criticism a step further, suggesting that the overtly provocative nature of the choreography may have been a calculated move. The theory is that with the group's reputation damaged and attention waning, the agency may be relying on the shock factor to bring them back into the spotlight. However, not all publicity is always good publicity, as this has led to accusations that the group might be trying to use the controversy as a marketing strategy, deliberately pushing boundaries to stay relevant. Seeing this, many netizens felt like trying to forcefully provoke people to give them attention and discuss yet another issue wasn't the right move, and that they should have instead attempted to stay a little more under the radar. Similarly, their performance outfits have been scrutinized for being far too revealing for the stage, with many questioning if this is really the way to showcase their feminism. Belle's bodysuit, which many described as resembling lingerie, was especially criticized. While some defenders pointed pointed out that such stylings are common in the entertainment industry, others expressed concern about the increasingly adult looks seen on young idols, especially since it looks like the company might be using the girls' looks as a way to take away attention from their mistakes. However, while some have been heavily critical of these moves, others have also long pointed out that Kiss of Life is a group of adult women who truly enjoy doing a more mature choreography with clothes that they do feel comfortable in. For many, the suggestive moves aren't enough of an issue either, especially since the group has more important things to be mindful of in this atmosphere. But despite the mixed opinions, the strategic use of this imagery, intentional or not, has only made the fan base further question the group's place in the industry, especially since this type of behavior seems to be used as a distraction tactic very often. And while some netizens see this as adult women taking control, not everyone agrees, especially a growing number of Korean fans. The backlash from Korean online communities has been particularly harsh this time around, with many stating that the group has crossed a line. While the initial controversy over cultural insensitivity sparked international outcry, the domestic reception has now taken a noticeable hit with this new concept. For K-pop idols, winning the support of Korean fans and media remains essential, especially in these early years of their careers. Losing some of that support often marks a critical blow, not just to a group's popularity, but to their long-term place in the industry. Fueling this idea is the performance that took place on the season's Park Bo-gum's Cantabile, where the group performed a sensual cover of Bruno Mars's That's What I Like. The most controversial moment came as the members circled and danced around the actor, and while he remained composed and professional, many netizens found the display awkward and maybe even uncomfortable. One netizen wrote, "It feels like those girls at school festivals who do suggestive dances around one random guy they made sit on a chair." In the past, the group's more adult themes have also been criticized by some netizens, however, things only seem to have gotten worse this time around, as very few are ready to defend them for these moves. Many fans have since voiced their frustration that the group keeps making missteps rather than demonstrating clear growth, especially with Julie releasing the third apology shortly before the comeback, making it seem more like damage control rather than sincere reflection. The lack of trust has only deepened the perception that Kiss of Life's every move is calculated for PR rather than guided by genuine accountability. As a result, the release of the comeback did not seem to draw in the same amount of excitement and support online as the members had been used to. Online discussions were more dominated by their controversies and less by their music. However, the criticism doesn't seem to have had much impact on their actual performance on Korean music charts. In fact, their first day numbers have shown a steady growth, especially compared to previous comebacks. Even online, not all responses were negative, as defenders also took to social media to point out that the criticism had gone too far at times, with potentially dangerous images being spread around at times, something that nobody deserves. This garnered quite a lot of sympathy for the members, especially as S2 Entertainment revealed plans to pursue legal action against those spreading some of the most harmful content about the group. Ultimately, many netizens argued that the group deserved a chance to grow and that their public apologies, even if delayed or imperfect, showed a willingness to engage with the backlash and grow from their mistakes. It is no doubt going to be an uphill battle for the group to try and regain public favor and to prove that they can navigate this industry with sensitivity and accountability. However, it will certainly take more than a few apologies and a poorly timed comeback. Speaking of lost support, NJZ experienced one of the most dramatic fan departures in recent history, proving that even once popular groups can disappear if their actions alienate their audience. For months, NJZ had the public's backing as they challenged HYBE alongside Min Hee-jin. Fans who believe in protecting idols over corporations rallied behind them, just as they had in past cases like Luna's and Omega X's. Despite the media favoring HYBE, NJZ supporters stayed loyal. However, after the court hearing on March 7th, public opinion took a sharp turn, and many began to reconsider their stance. Nearly 4 months after NJZ's press conference, in which they declared they had terminated their contracts, the court issued a ruling on March 21st, siding against the group and putting a halt to any outside work for them unless a future trial could potentially reverse their contracts. To summarize the court ruling, let's start with one of NJZ's key claims, which was that Min Hee-jin's removal as CEO caused serious instability. The court dismissed this, stating Adore had the authority to make business decisions and that Min Hee-jin's role wasn't a contractual necessity. NJZ also pointed to Adore's strained relationship with Dolphiners as a reason for contract termination, but the court ruled that Dolphiners was irrelevant to the case and that any conflicts with with them wouldn't justify breaking the contract. Another argument was that Adore abandoned them after Min Heejin's departure, but the court countered that NJZ's own attempt to walk away had also disrupted management. When asked what circumstances would allow them to end their contracts, the court made it clear there were none. According to the court's decision, Adore had invested significantly in New Jeans from their trainee days and had met their contractual responsibilities. Letting NJZ leave after just 2 years would result in major financial losses for the company. Following the ruling, opinions online were mixed. Some people felt upset, believing the girls should be allowed to leave what they saw as a toxic and harmful environment. A Twitter user wrote, "Stand celebrating the mistreatment and exploitation of artists who are minors as if their favorite idols are not also stuck in this exploitative idol industry." Not everyone shared the same view as a lot of people, including many Korean netizens, backed the court's decision. They criticized NJZ for acting emotionally and prioritizing feelings over the law. Most comments on online forums echoed the same point. It was clear from the start that Adore would win because NJZ's case wasn't strong enough to justify ending the contract. One netizen commented, "The court's right though, you can't just throw a tantrum and say you want to leave so that cancels the contract. That's the whole point of a contract." Another person noted that other idols aren't staying because of love for their companies. They understand the binding nature of their agreements, stressing that the law should always take priority. Opinions got even more divided once NJZ released their statement after the ruling. In an Instagram post shared the same day, they stated that they accepted the decision but felt it didn't fully capture how much trust had been broken by Adore. They also went on to criticize the rushed injunction process, which they claimed didn't give them enough time to properly present their case. NJZ then said that Adore and HYBE had all the necessary information, while they were left to find details on their own, and that many people were too scared to help them due to fear of retaliation. Despite the ruling, NJZ made it clear they weren't backing down, saying they planned to fight the decision by submitting more evidence and presenting new legal arguments. They reiterated that they had honored their contracts and it was Adore and HYBE who had mistreated them, making it impossible to continue their work together. They emphasized that the injunction was just a temporary decision, and the real legal battle would take place at the upcoming hearing on April 3rd, where they hope to present a stronger case with more legal support. In the end, they wrote, "As we have stated before, regardless of any financial matters, we can no longer remain with a management that has disrespected our identities and undermined our achievements. The reason we are pursuing this legal action is to protect our dignity and rights." The statement only seemed to fuel more backlash against NJZ, as many people pushed back on several points they made. For instance, some argued that NJZ had no right to claim they didn't have enough time to present the facts in court. They pointed out that the conflict between HYBE and Min Heejin's side had been ongoing for a year, NJZ's live stream was in September, and they announced their contract termination in November. In their view, NJZ had plenty of time to prepare for the injunction, especially given they were facing a major corporation. Others took issue with NJZ's argument that the court didn't fully consider the breakdown of trust with Adore, claiming it was impossible to support that claim since it was the only reason the group presented. One user wrote, "I'm sure they took it into account since that's like the only argument y'all gave. There's only so much weight they can put into that." Then, Adore released a statement expressing their intent to communicate with NJZ and resolve the situation through open dialogue. They reaffirmed their role as the group's agency and promised full support moving forward. Adore also confirmed that the Complex Con performance would proceed as planned, under the New Jeans name backed by Adore. Adore also stated that they will dispatch staff to Hong Kong to support the group's performance under the name New Jeans rather than NJZ. Surprisingly, many backed this decision, saying that the company was doing the right thing. Comments on online forums said, "The employees must be annoyed and Adore is treating them well." Even the KOO, which has always supported NJZ, seems to be shifting its stance. On Pan, while the top comments might be influenced, the upvote and downvote numbers tell a different story, as the criticism of NJZ clearly outweighed the support. While it's easy to manipulate comments, it's much harder to fake the upvote and downvote counts, as attempts to upvote with multiple accounts are quickly blocked. But what's with the turn in opinion? For many Korean netizens who had supported NJZ, the court's ruling against them was enough to change their stance. In Korea, there's a strong belief in following the law, so when the court dismissed all of NJZ's arguments, most people shifted their support to Adore and the legal system. They saw NJZ's actions as a failure to honor their contracts, which they believed was also a failure to respect the law. As a commenter explained, "I think it's because how it looks like rich kids trying to go above the law when average citizen can't." On the other hand, K-pop fans who had stood by NJZ in their fight against HYBE and Adore were expecting them to bring strong evidence and fresh arguments to the court. But when the hearing took place, NJZ stuck to the same claims they had been making all along. For many, this was frustrating. To them, not only did they fail to present anything new, but they also struggled to back up some of their original statements. One user questioned, "Who goes to court to unilaterally terminate a contract based on vibes, and he said, she said, just find a company willing to pay your termination fee and call it a day. Some also brought up KOOKIELIT as a reason not to support the NJZ members. As you may know, according to Min Hee-jin, KOOKIELIT's alleged plagiarism was the main reason behind her dispute with HYBE, and NJZ later included it in their case for terminating their contracts. However, the court dismissed this argument, stating there was no solid proof that KOOKIELIT had copied NJZ's concept. Furthermore, the ruling questioned whether NJZ's concept was even legally protected under intellectual property laws. Another issue involved an incident with KOOKIELIT's manager, which Honey had previously mentioned during the live stream in September. She recalled being alone in a hallway at HYBE's building when a girl group from another label, along with their manager, walked by. At first, they exchanged greetings, but when they passed her again, the manager allegedly told them not to acknowledge her. However, when NJZ presented this in court, their claim had shifted. They now argued that the KOOKIELIT members not only ignored them, but also mocked Honey through words and actions. Despite this accusation, they didn't specify what was said or provide any evidence. And because of this, the court questioned whether Honey had actually heard the supposed remark, noting inconsistencies in her account. On the same day, she had messaged Min Hee-jin in English, mentioning that 3 KOOKIELIT members had greeted her, though somewhat stiffly. Additionally, CCTV footage from HYBE showed the KOOKIELIT members bowing in her direction. Given this, the court determined there was no solid proof that they had ignored or mocked her. Because the group's legal representatives had claimed something entirely different from what Honey had said, many couldn't help but resent the members for the hate train that KOOKIELIT had gone through since this whole thing started. Some believed this was an attempt to make their claims seem more credible, but it had the opposite effect, especially since KOOKIELIT were made out to be the bad guys instead of the manager. So instead of gaining support, it only fueled skepticism, making people question whether any of NJZ's accusations were true. As one commenter put it, the fact that they've changed this looks really bad and feels much more like an attack at KOOKIELIT. There's zero point in lying now and trying to make it look worse when it was already unkind of the manager to do something like that, and KOOKIELIT were never at fault. Even those who were convinced that KOOKIELIT had indeed plagiarized NJZ and that their manager had instructed them to ignore Honey started demanding an apology from NJZ. People were also upset that the members continued to sell and wear NJZ merchandise despite the court ruling that they shouldn't promote themselves under that name. Making matters worse, Adore staff couldn't reach them at the event, had no way to meet them in person, and weren't even told about their hiatus. This only fueled public outrage, as many felt the group was contradicting their claims of standing up for workers' rights while making things harder for Adore employees. Some pointed out that these staff members weren't high-level executives, but regular workers with much lower pay, yet they were the ones being caught in the middle and ignored by the members. Another commenter wrote, "Rich people fighting with rich people, and the employee goes through this because he has to eat and pay the bills." Additionally, it was revealed that Hani and Danielle had messaged and met with a fan notorious for criticizing groups like KOOKIELIT, LE SSERAFIM, and BTS, which added fuel to the fire. So, while NJZ initially gained widespread public and fan support, it's looking less likely that they'll maintain that backing. The group still has a strong fan base, which became especially obvious after their performance livestream hit over 1 million views, but it seems they're losing some of their original supporters. However, this battle is just beginning, with a major hearing on April 3rd and the legal proceedings expected to continue for up to 3 years. So, do you think NJZ will manage to hold on to their fan base, or will they lose it as the drama unfolds? Share your thoughts in the comments below. But the story doesn't stop there. aespa's Karina made waves for decisions that put her own career at risk, showing just how quickly things can take a turn for the worse. aespa has faced controversies before, but this time it's different. This scandal didn't just cause noise, but it flipped public opinion almost overnight, and people aren't seeing them the same way anymore. So what exactly happened? On May 27th, Karina uploaded several photos taken on the streets of Tokyo. She wore a long white skirt and a red and black jersey with the number 2 on the front and added a single red rose emoji to the caption. To international fans, it looked like a simple outfit post, but in South Korea, the timing and the specific details in the picture raised eyebrows. To understand why, we have to rewind a bit. As you may know, South Korea has been in political turmoil these past few months. Former President Yoon Suk-yeol from the conservative People Power Party shocked the country on December 3rd when he declared martial law. Just over a week later, on December 14th, he was impeached by the National Assembly. Though he was originally supposed to stay in office until 2027, his presidency ended early. On April 4th, 2025, the Constitutional Court unanimously upheld the impeachment, officially removing him from power. power. Since then, South Korea has had 3 acting presidents, and under the law, a new election must be held within 60 days of a president being removed. That election is now set for June 3rd. The 2 main candidates are Lee Jae-myung, representing the left-leaning Democratic Party, and Kim Moon-soo, the conservative candidate from the PPP. In South Korea, political symbolism is taken very seriously, especially during elections. Red is associated with the conservatives and blue with the liberals, and because of this, many public figures, including K-pop idols, avoid wearing red or blue around election season to steer clear of accusations of political bias. This sensitivity goes even further. In past elections, idols avoided even making peace signs in their photos since the gesture could be interpreted as signaling a vote for candidate number 2, which represents the Conservative Party on ballots. These things might seem harmless, but in the heated atmosphere of South Korean politics, small gestures can be blown out of proportion. During the 2022 election, K-pop idols went out of their way to avoid even the slightest hint of political messaging. Luna's Jinsol and Eve's were extra cautious, making sure their actions couldn't be misread. ATEEZ's Hongjoong even went as far as covering his red hair before heading to the polls, just to avoid sparking any assumptions. But not everyone managed to dodge the heat. 17's Mingyu posted a few casual photos on Instagram wearing a red hoodie, adding a red heart in the caption. That was all it took for things to spiral. People immediately connected the color choice to then candidate Yoon Suk-yeol, the conservative who later won the presidency. Yoon had campaigned on abolishing the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family, claiming it was biased against men, a stance that many women, including a large part of Mingyu's fan base, strongly opposed. Fans felt betrayed, interpreting the red hoodie and heart emoji as a subtle show of support. The criticism came fast, and the post disappeared without a word. Mingyu never addressed it, but the damage had already been done, as even years later, it's still mentioned whenever people talk about idols and politics. When Karina uploaded that photo in the red jersey with the number 2 and topped it off with a rose emoji, it didn't take long for people to react, and not in a good way. The rose symbol had already been linked to the conservative PPP's Rose election slogan, and the number 2 is how their candidate appears on the ballot. To many, it felt like she was openly showing support for the party, and considering her huge influence, the backlash was immediate. It wasn't just the red outfit or the emoji, it was the timing, the symbols, and what they represented in a highly sensitive political climate. For someone as prominent as Karina, it was jarring to see what looked like a political statement, especially one that appeared to favor the PPP. For many young Korean women, seeing her seemingly side with the Conservative Party hit a nerve. Even those who normally stay out of politics couldn't ignore it. Karina ended up deleting the post once the criticism started, but the damage was already done. By then, people across the internet, Korean and international fans alike, were already discussing it, disappointed and frustrated. Comments on online Korean forums said things like, "The conclusion is that she has no brains. No, but why did she delete it? And I'm just thankful that she made it obvious now. First of all, I'll delete all their songs from my playlist and will keep my distance from now on." Some people took it a step further, pointing out that the design on Karina's jersey looked a lot like the rising sun flag, but that's still being debated. A few fans jumped in to defend her, claiming it was all just bad timing and coincidence, but for many, that explanation didn't feel convincing. As a Reddit user put it, "If it was just the color, I wouldn't care. If it was the color and the number, I still wouldn't, but that alongside an emoji that is typically associated with that party, I'm supposed to see all that as a simple misunderstanding?" Some people believe Karina knew exactly how her post would be seen but posted it anyway, which only made things more suspicious. Adding to the controversy, she had already shared a picture of herself wearing a red sweater on Bubble account on May 22nd, but that didn't attract much attention. So posting the pictures with the jersey before the election felt strange, which some thought was a coincidence, but others think it was a deliberate move. Things quickly escalated after Karina's post. As one of the biggest stars right now, the People Power Party didn't waste any time using her popularity to their advantage. Baek Ji-won, the party's spokesperson, gave a shout out to aespa by sharing a photo of all 4 members on her Instagram story, with their song Supernova playing in the background. She even posted the cover of their Armageddon album, making her support obvious. PPP fans took it further, creating a meme by mixing the party's candidate Kim Moon-soo's name with Supernova, calling it Kim Moon-soo Supernova. On top of that, the party's supporters have flooded Karina's recent Instagram post comments with messages of encouragement, rallying behind her. While some fans still criticize Karina, a growing number of right-wing supporters on Twitter have turned her into a symbol for their cause. They're reposting her photos constantly and even editing her images into election profile pictures, effectively making her a face for the party's campaign. Comments on her post read things like, "Absolutely gorgeous, our nation's little sister Karina, a true national star of South Korea, and patriotic Queen Karina." Even JK Kim Dong-wook jumped into the mix defending Karina. For some background, he's a Korean-Canadian singer known for openly openly supporting conservative views during the impeachment drama. In response to the Karina controversy, Dongwook shared an Instagram story quoting someone from a well-known company who said he's outspoken because he isn't tied down by an agency. Then he added, "Hello? These days, even idols from major agencies speak their minds confidently. Wake up." While he didn't name anyone, fans quickly assumed he was hinting at Karina's controversy. Having a figure like Dongwook, who's already controversial for backing the Conservative Party, seemingly support Karina made the backlash even fiercer. The stir got so intense that SM Entertainment had to step in and address the situation directly. Their first move was asking the PPP spokesperson to take down the Instagram stories featuring aespa. Then the company released an official statement apologizing for the confusion and emphasizing that Karina had no hidden agenda with her post. They pointed out she deleted it quickly to avoid misunderstandings. The statement also promised that the company would be more careful moving forward to prevent anything like this from happening again, and hoped people wouldn't twist Karina's intentions or assume the worst. But not everyone saw it that way. Some were pleasantly surprised at how fast SM reacted, while others thought the apology should have come much sooner, given how serious the backlash was, especially with conservatives using Karina as a campaign symbol. Many fans also accused her of hiding behind the company's statement and demanded she publicly and clearly distance herself from the PPP. Karina did respond, but her message only stirred the pot more. She posted an apology on Bubble addressing her fans directly. She started by saying sorry for causing them worry and explained that she never meant for things to get so out of hand. She wrote, "I totally didn't mean it, but the misunderstanding blew up this big, and I thought that I should address it personally because MY are so worried about it." Following the typical K-pop apology style, Karina promised to be more mindful of her actions going forward and apologized once again for the trouble she caused. This apology only made things worse for a few reasons. For starters, many were unhappy that Karina chose to apologize on a paid fan platform instead of making a public statement herself. While SM did put out an official apology, people expected Karina, who actually posted the controversial photo, to address it publicly too. Then the apology itself came across as pretty half-hearted. Fans complained she waited too long to respond, and when she finally did, her message was way too brief given how serious the situation was. People couldn't help but compare it to her apology after dating rumors with actor Lee Jae-wook, where she wrote a long handwritten letter on her public Instagram that reached way more people. They weren't saying she needed to apologize for dating, but the difference in how she handled these two situations didn't sit well. As a commenter put it, "It's just common sense. Handle a Bubble slip-up on Bubble, handle an Instagram slip-up on Instagram." On top of that, some fans pointed out that she never clearly denied voting for the Conservative Party or distanced herself from them. Instead, she just called it a misunderstanding and apologized for worrying her fans. This led to accusations that maybe she was testing the waters with her post, and when the backlash blew up, she quickly tried to pass it off as a mistake, but of course these accusations haven't been proven. Although Karina isn't likely to lose her core fans and will stay a major idol, her image has definitely taken a hit. This controversy will probably stick with her for a long time. She's been picking up support from right-wing and incel groups, but many South Korean fans, some who even protested for the previous president's impeachment in her name, have openly criticized and condemned her. Things got worse when she showed up at an award ceremony shortly after, smiling and laughing as she accepted an award on stage. That moment made many netizens think she wasn't sorry at all and didn't take the situation seriously, which only fueled the anger and disappointment among the public, with comments saying, "Of course she's allowed to laugh, but this is a bit." People, including aespa's own fans, are saying Karina needs to be more careful about how she shows herself to the public, even if some things might not be directly connected. We don't actually know her political views or who she voted for, so a lot of what's been said is just guesswork. Still, most agree that whether she meant it or not, she should have thought twice before posting, especially since fellow idols faced backlash for similar things not too long ago. What's your take? Do you think she did it on purpose, or was this just a coincidence that blew up way bigger than expected? Similarly, Red Velvet's Irene faced backlash that shifted public opinion almost overnight, reminding us how fragile fame can be when fans and the media turn critical. For years, Red Velvet's Irene was considered to be the it girl of the third generation of K-pop. Unfortunately, her career took a huge hit and her popularity hasn't been the same ever since. Almost 3 years ago, in October of 2020, Irene became the center of everyone's attention when a photo shoot editor exposed an idol they worked with for being horribly rude. Based on the things the editor provided, netizens quickly suspected that the person that they were talking about was Red Velvet's Irene. The editor in question was Kang Koo-kwa, who was known for for being the visual director for many successful pictorials. On her Instagram, she shared a post where she detailed the incident when she was verbally attacked by a celebrity. The editor started her post by writing, "I should have prepared myself from the stories I've heard before I met her, but today I became speechless as this person stung me with her words that are like electric needles." KOOKIELIT added that she was not given the opportunity to explain herself, nor did the celebrity try to understand the situation at all. She continued, "I thought I had experienced everything in life and thought I had let everything go, but I was wrong." The editor detailed how she was insulted by the celebrity without any reason, and the insults were so terrible that she just burst into tears. The post didn't give any information about who it could be, but KOOKIELIT used the hashtag Psycho and Monster, which immediately gave it away that it was either Irene or Seulgi from Red Velvet, as those were the titles of their songs. For a moment, fans seemed to believe it couldn't be either of them, as the editor previously worked with Seulgi and Irene and complimented the girls on how kind they were. But quickly after that, netizens dug up more and more evidence, and all signs pointed to Irene. More industry insiders started to come forward to share their experiences meeting her, and all hell broke loose. One of the video directors who previously worked with SM Entertainment tweeted a cryptic message that said, "Wow, what should have blown up finally did." Netizens also noticed that a former backup dancer for Red Velvet liked KOOKIELIT's Instagram post detailing the rude behavior. KOOKIELIT's Instagram is no longer available, but it was reported that other workers from the entertainment industry, including fashion photographers and stylists, also commented on the post speaking out against the idol. One of them allegedly said, "You guys are wasting your time shielding her. If you knew what her character is like, you would never be able to do this." Another alleged one read, "I knew that something would come up eventually. I hope she fixes her habits." An anonymous stylist that had worked with Irene on 3 different occasions came forward and revealed that Irene had left a bad impression on her every time they met. The stylist recalled an incident where she saw Irene push her finger against one of the stylist's forehead, saying, "Do I even need to do this? How long do I need to stand here?" The second time she encountered Irene, the celebrity was standing while 2 stylists were kneeling in front of her. When Irene lost balance, she grabbed the stylist's hair while cursing loudly. This particular stylist also mentioned that other staff members were so intimidated and scared that they would turn completely pale if they were told to wake Irene up during the breaks. A Chinese stylist who previously worked with Irene even shared that her beauty is a waste considering the way she behaved. Netizens were shocked and eager to find out the real identity of the celebrity, as they always are when a celebrity is exposed for being exceptionally rude. Eventually, the assumptions were proven to be right when Irene posted a personal apology on Instagram where she admitted that she was the celebrity mentioned in KOOKIELIT's post. She wrote, "I sincerely apologize for hurting the stylist with my foolish attitude and careless words and actions. I received a lot of help from people who gave their effort for me to get where I am now," expressing her regrets over hurting them with her immature behavior. She stated that the incident made her appreciate the hard work and importance of staff members once again, and that she deeply apologized to the fans who were affected by her actions. In light of Irene's controversy, Red Velvet's fan meeting was cancelled, and it was a dark time for their fans. Since Irene indirectly admitted to the things that were shared about her, a lot of fans didn't know how to feel. Industry insiders and their testimonies were soon joined by a well-known SM Entertainment trainee, Monet Fukuhara, who supported the allegations against Irene on her Twitter. She tweeted that when she was under SM, Irene gave her a really hard time while Seulgi was there to defend her. She then clarified that the hard time Irene gave her was a broad term, and what she experienced was Irene getting the things she wanted no matter what. The controversy escalated as the days went by, and even though a lot of people came to Irene's defense, the damage to her career and reputation was already done. It started with her Instagram numbers dipping significantly. Within a day, she lost tens of thousands of followers, and her brand endorsements were next in line. Before the controversy, various brands were fighting each other about who was going to have her as their ambassador. At the beginning of 2020, Irene became the official ambassador for the popular cosmetic brand Clinique Korea. In response to her controversy, Korea's biggest platforms that were selling Clinique products were quick to remove any promotional material featuring her. This included well-known cosmetic stores like Olive Young or an online shopping mall SSG.com. Witnessing the quick removal of Irene's promotional content, netizens insisted on boycotting any brand Irene has worked with previously as long as they don't remove materials that include her. The luxury brand Prada was also affected by Irene's controversy. In September of 2020, both Irene and EXO's Chanyeol were announced as the brand ambassadors, and both of them got into serious scandals within just a week of each other. Irene then went completely off the grid and lived quietly before she returned to Instagram for the first time in 10 months since her controversy. The picture she posted went viral almost immediately, and because fans can't contain their excitement to finally have Irene back, her name trended on Twitter within minutes. It still didn't mean that she was fully ready to return though. She participated in group comebacks and in her acting endeavors, but as other members went to have their own solo releases, Irene is still without a solo album, much like Yeti. It was only this year that Irene started to slowly return back to doing various endorsements. Netizens noticed that an Indonesian makeup brand chose her as their main model. The response those pictures received was overwhelmingly positive, with many netizens praising Irene's beauty. Some users also agreed that the amount of hate Irene received was simply too much. A netizen wrote, "Honestly, I think Irene received way too much hate. If she was a male celebrity, she would have gotten hate for around 3 months, and then everything would have washed over." One netizen also brought up Super Junior's Heechul, who's had his fair share of controversies. Unlike Irene, netizens agreed that he was able to promote normally without any huge consequences, while Irene wasn't able to do anything for years. Even though netizens agreed that some people crossed the line while sending Irene malicious comments, not all people are okay with what Irene did. When the controversy was at its peak, there were people protesting that SM should remove Irene from the group. While there have been many instances when a member departed from the group after a controversy, it would be too risky for SM to let go of her. In 2022, there was a huge debate among netizens about why SM wouldn't let Irene go so easily. Among the rest of the Red Velvet members, she's the most popular one in China, and she's right after Blackpink. She's always been more popular than the other members, and her fandom grew a lot stronger after her fans stood by her during the controversy. Red Velvet's fandom is also the second largest, once again following Blackpink, and so SM Entertainment essentially depends on Irene's popularity to do well in the Chinese market. It would also be extremely damaging since she is the leader of the group and the girls are very close friends. Because of how SM treats Red Velvet and gives them barely any opportunities to release new music or perform, there were rumors about Irene not renewing her contract with SM this September. The rumors resurfaced due to a report from Star News Korea. They argued that the reason why the group hasn't released any new music since November of 2022 and hasn't had any activity since June 2023 is Irene deciding not to renew. This sent many of their fans into a spiral as they began to worry for the group's future. SM hasn't been kind to them at all, and they feared what consequences this could bring. Thankfully, everything turned for the better when the huge news about Red Velvet's next comeback was announced. According to their agency, Red Velvet will be releasing their third full-length album in November of this year, exactly a year after their last one. It's safe to say that their fans are over the moon right now, and it's easily one of the most anticipated releases of this year. Let's just hope we won't have to wait a year again for the next one. Then there's HyunA, who continues to navigate controversies and public scrutiny, highlighting the ongoing pressures idols face when their choices are constantly under the spotlight. HyunA's career has always been surrounded by controversy and criticism, yet she managed to successfully maintain public support through all these years. However, after announcing her latest relationship, she faced such criticism that it eventually caused her to lose everything. But examining her career over the past few years, it's become clear that things actually began to decline after she left Cube, and it all just erupted this year. As you know, on January 18th, HyunA shared a photo on Instagram strolling hand in hand on the beach with former Highlight member Hyung. Initially, fans speculated about a potential collaboration, but HyunA quickly put those rumors to rest by adding a couple emoji in the caption, confirming they were dating. A few years ago, fans would have been ecstatic at everything, considering the long-lasting friendship between the two, which sometimes had people wondering whether there was something more. But in 2024, people were kind of disgusted by the revelation, not because she was in a relationship, but because Junhyung was quite the controversial figure. To understand the controversy, we need to revisit 2019 and the Burning Sun investigation. The police uncovered a Kakao Talk chat room where Seungri and other investors were arranging inappropriate services for several clients. The primary culprit was Jung Junyoung, who shared non-consensual videos of women in the chat. SBS News reported that Junyoung and others had been sharing these videos since late 2015. Junyoung posted hidden camera footage of women in the group chat for about 10 months, and one of these recipients was HyunA's new boyfriend, Junyoung. Although he wasn't a member of the group chat, there's evidence Junyoung sent him a video where he was seen with a woman who was unaware unaware she was being filmed. Rather than being disturbed, Junyoung made inappropriate comments about it and didn't report it. When this scandal came to light, Junyoung and his agency initially denied everything, but the truth soon emerged. Junyoung later admitted he had misled his agency, leading them to defend him. Acknowledging his wrongdoing, he left both Highlight and his company and then disappeared from the public eye. So you understand the confusion when an idol as beloved as HyunA announced that she was dating someone who didn't see a problem with watching illegal videos of women and not reporting them. After the relationship became public, HyunA's biggest fan pages in Korea and abroad shut down, and she lost a significant number of followers, with many expressing how baffled they were about HyunA potentially risking her reputation and career by going public with the relationship. HyunA appeared unbothered though. A few months ago, she appeared on HyunA's YouTube channel, where the conversation quickly turned to her relationship with Junyoung. Ja asked about their favorite hangout spots and if it was challenging to be a public couple given how recognizable they are. HyunA, however, brushed off any concerns about being seen together, saying she enjoys going out with him regardless of the attention. Addressing the controversy surrounding their relationship, she acknowledged that she's aware of what people think but chooses to ignore it as her happiness is more important. She emphasized that Junyoung gives her courage, so instead of worrying about public opinion, she's decided to focus on herself. Ja expressed that she admired HyunA's confidence, saying that she also wanted to date someone she liked without worrying about others' opinions. The relationship is getting quite serious too, as it was reported at the beginning of July that the couple would be tying the knot on October 11th in a wedding ceremony in Seoul. An insider said after recently developing into a romantic relationship, they felt confident in their love and decided to get married. They exchange positive energy and are expected to be even more active after marriage. Even though Korean netizens congratulated the two, there were also rumors that this was a shotgun marriage and that HyunA was in the early stages of the pregnancy, but these rumors were denied. After the marriage news broke though, words began circulating that her friendly relationship with her ex-boyfriend, former Pentagon member Dawn, had also come to an end as fans noticed that the two had deleted all of their pictures together from their Instagram accounts. Now you might think, this is pretty normal, right? After all, HyunA is getting married and it's normal for her not to have traces of her ex all over social media. However, during a 2019 appearance on NBC's Radio Star, Dawn revealed that they had decided to keep their photos on social media even if they broke up, considering their relationship and its ending as a natural part of their journey worth remembering. The pictures were up until the wedding announcement, which makes the whole thing a lot more suspicious. Some fans couldn't blame Dawn for being bitter though. When HyunA and Dawn split up in 2022 after 6 years together, rumors suggested the breakup was due to differing views on marriage and children, with Dawn wanting both and HyunA not being ready. This was hinted at in various variety show appearances like Radio Star and Return of the Superman, so to see his ex-girlfriend who wasn't ready to marry him be engaged to someone else might have affected him. However, HyunA's current relationship with her ex or with her fiancé doesn't really matter. What matters is the influence that the backlash and the hate has on her career. It seems like the criticism has also translated to real-life boycotts, as shown by her tour. Just so we can explain everything more clearly, HyunA announced on June 3rd that she would go on a North American tour titled My Attitude Tour. The tour would begin on August 7th and have 8 stops throughout the US and Canada. Even though the prices were decent, shortly before the tour was set to begin, people noticed that some of the concerts were canceled. There was no announcement or even a reason given, but the dates in Seattle, Dallas, Houston, Chicago, Los Angeles, and Toronto appeared as canceled on ticket-selling websites. In other cases, the calendars of other venues didn't include the date, or there were a lot of resale tickets available, but they all meant one thing: the tour wasn't going well. No matter what, this wasn't expected because many people thought that the backlash she was receiving was happening only online, and they didn't think that this would translate into real life. But these people were wrong, as HyunA lost her diehard fans, she lost her casual listeners, and she lost the support of the public, both Korean and international. Most people blamed it on HyunA's stance towards the criticism she was getting because instead of acknowledging the reasons why fans disapproved of her relationship, she said that she was focusing on herself and her happiness. And well, fans didn't appreciate this. Yes, she was known for not caring about what everyone thought of her, which is one of the reasons that people loved her so much, but in this instance, it seemed like it was part of her downfall. One Twitter user wrote, "HyunA's overly careless attitude is finally catching up to her." Eventually, the tour was canceled altogether, and the promotional poster and video were deleted from social media. Korean netizens were mostly baffled that the company even decided to send her on tour overseas when it was known that the international fans condemned her the most for dating Junyoung and announcing her marriage to him. A netizen questioned her confidence in announcing the marriage, noting that international fans are more sensitive to these issues, which could make overseas promotions challenging. Another one said, "Her international fandom has decreased since dating Young Junyoung. She had somewhat of a fan base, but foreigners are more sensitive sensitive to these problems. Then there's also the issue of companies wildly overestimating the popularity of their artists, which is an issue that other K-pop idols have also been having. For example, Triple S had to cancel 2 shows because the venues that they booked were simply too big for the number of fans who attended. Chu, Artemis, and Lusemble face the same issue, and it's tied to several issues. First of all, there are too many tours being announced around the same time. With overlapping K-pop tours, fans often have to choose between shows that are already scheduled just days apart. Additionally, K-pop tours usually hit just a few cities, so fans not only face high ticket prices, but also need to spend on travel and accommodation, which costs too much. As mentioned, groups are also aiming for large theater venues when they should be targeting smaller clubs or bars, or focusing on festivals like KCON, where they don't need to sell thousands of tickets on their own for each show. The problem with HyunA's tour was generally the same. In addition to the controversy, the venues that she booked are pretty big in capacity and looking, with her Los Angeles venue holding up to 4,000 people at her career trajectory in the last few years. She doesn't have the necessary audience to fill them up. Even if she had casual fans who would want to see her because of nostalgia, the ticket prices are way too much for them to even bother. As a Redditor explained, we're already seeing album sales decrease from the post-pandemic highs, and now many artists overextended themselves on a tour that just doesn't have enough demand from an audience without enough disposable income. An additional reason that people had for the cancellation of her tour was that her popularity had genuinely decreased. A few years back, HyunA would have sold out a North American tour with no problem because her songs were hits and she was at her peak. This isn't her first North American tour. She had one back in 2017 called The Queen's Back, and the setlist was enough to urge people to buy tickets. She performed songs like Roll Deep, Ice Cream, Red, Change, and Bubble Pop, and everyone who attended had a blast. Even if you weren't a fan of her back then, you probably knew of those songs and the price was reasonable. However, for now, the truth is that HyunA hit her peak a few years ago and hasn't had a hit song in a while. Her last release under P Nation was I'm Not Cool, which happened 3 years ago, and it wasn't as successful or liked by the public compared to the songs she released under Cube. The Attitude mini-album was received well by international netizens, but Korean ones deemed it too repetitive for their tastes. Opinions didn't matter though, because her long-awaited comeback flopped everywhere. The music video struggled to hit 100,000 views within a few hours, which was a disappointing result for a solo artist like HyunA, who usually had videos with millions of views in less than a day. Even after 3 days, the video didn't reach 3 million views, and her Spotify streams were just as underwhelming, with only the title track breaking 1 million streams. On the charts, her performance was also lackluster, as Q&A peaked at 132 on Genie and debuted at 174 on Melon's daily chart. However, her first day sales were strong, surpassing 10,000 copies, the highest for any of her mini albums, showing some success there. We can't lie and say that the comeback wouldn't do better if the dating scandal didn't happen, but HyunA has failed to generate interest as an artist ever since she left Cube. Even though she's very talented herself and knows how to attract a fan base, the company also knew exactly how to manage her, driving her success and popularity. She just needed to keep releasing her catchy fun tracks and make a few variety show appearances, and the schedules and CFs came in effortlessly. When she moved to P Nation, she was more known as a half of the HyunA Dawn couple rather than her own person, and it didn't help that the music quality also severely decreased after. There were people who still casually kept up with her, but it wasn't long before the public started getting bored of P Nation HyunA and forgot about her until the next release. It can also be argued that HyunA doesn't put as much effort into her performances as she used to. She isn't a strong singer, but one thing that she was known for was her stage presence. Ever since she started her career, she was good at hyping the crowd and playing off of the audience. Even though she didn't stick to the choreography sometimes, she was still captivating to watch and knew just what to do to make the audience go crazy. Unfortunately, we can't say the same thing for her now. At the end of July, she made an appearance at the Super Race Championship Summer Night Race, where she performed songs like Red, Lip and Hip, I'm Not Cool, Bubble Pop, and her latest song Q&A. However, looking at those performances, you couldn't tell that this was the same HyunA that used to give it her all on stage. She barely danced to the choreography, which again is normal for her, but she didn't even try in the other areas. In fact, at some point in the performance, it looked like she was zoning out completely. Seeing the comments on her fan cams, netizens had different theories on what could cause HyunA to not put any energy into her act. Of course, it was first assumed that the dating scandal was to blame. HyunA being HyunA hasn't shown any sign that she cares about what people have to say about her or who she's dating. She prioritizes herself and her own happiness. However, she's only human, so it wouldn't be very surprising if the backlash got to her after all. Under P Nation, HyunA was restricted to some degree as Psy didn't give her full creative control. Not only that, but she was also constantly promoted alongside her boyfriend, and her relationship became the biggest focus of her career. So when she moved to @area, she probably thought that this was her time to get back to her former glory. However, the disappointing results of her comeback and the loss of her fans probably made her think that giving it her all during a performance wasn't worth it, so she just didn't. Of course, this may not be the case at all, but we can't really deny that her career was impacted to some degree by the scandal. Who says that her performance also wasn't? Some said that she looked sick, with users writing comments like, "She doesn't look well," and "Her face was swollen too, she looks sick." For those of you who don't know, HyunA suffers from vasovagal syncope, which happens when your body overreacts to certain triggers, such as low weight, stress, and emotional distress, causing a sudden drop in heart rate and blood pressure. This leads to reduced blood flow to the brain, resulting in a brief loss of consciousness. HyunA talked about her condition a few years ago when she explained how hard it was for her to perform. She explained, "This really frustrated me, that I couldn't be able to stand on stage. I was so sorry that I couldn't keep my promise to my fans, which made the condition worse. So I thought, this is not right. I have to act more naturally. I tried to relax." Many assumed that her condition had gotten worse that day, which could explain why she looked like she could barely move or even keep her head up. Some people suggested that HyunA's low energy on stage was due to the crowd's lack of enthusiasm. After her dating scandal, many fans distanced themselves, and it was evident during her performance as the audience remained mostly silent. Audience footage from the event showed HyunA's performance met with complete silence. At one point, when she tried to engage with the crowd by telling them to sing along to the lyrics of Bubble Pop, there were only a few people being heard from the crowd, leaving her embarrassed as she had no choice but to continue performing. A user wrote, "I'm still amazed at the fact that she was even invited to perform there. In the coming months, I feel like her company will ultimately drop her and she will retire from the industry because she won't be bringing any income." However, it seems like there's a lot of misinformation going around about the performance in question. Watching other fan cams, you can definitely hear the crowd sing along to her songs. It's not a lot of fans, but it also wasn't as silent as other people claimed it to be. That can be explained by the nature of the event itself because the audience weren't Idol fans, so understandably, there wasn't much interest or many who knew the lyrics. Davichi also performed at the event and got a great response, but that's because they're widely popular with the general public. Fans also posted other videos of one of HyunA's performances, which happened a few months after the dating news came to light, and the audience was pretty loud when singing along. Considering all these details, it's possible the videos were edited to downplay the crowd's reaction, or the cameras in certain fan cams just didn't capture the audience's cheers. As for HyunA's low-energy performance, her illness might be the real reason instead of anything else. So after dealing with a nearly career-ruining scandal, a cancelled tour, and huge backlash, what's next for HyunA? Many think that she's going to leave or at the worst be kicked out of @area. When the news first came out, it was also reported that HyunA had released the dating news without letting the agency know beforehand, which made their relationship sour. According to one report, once again she announced her dating news at midnight without notifying her agency. LOL. People are saying please consult with the agency first before doing something like this, and should think about the employees who had to answer their phones late at night. HyunA herself acknowledged that she caused trouble for the company by revealing her relationship, so it's not too far-fetched to think that @area is going to quote-unquote get rid of her once her contract is over. With a canceled tour, it can also be assumed that she doesn't bring in that much money either, so to some people there's no reason for the company to keep her. One thing is true though, her career is far from over. The scandal did impact her career, but she probably still has a few more years before people start forgetting about her and her career goes down in shambles. She has built a steady career for over 20 years, so it's not going to crumble so quickly, despite everything that happened. And in 2024, Beomhan became one of the most talked about idols, making headlines for scandal after scandal, a clear example of how repeated missteps can dominate a career. Soloist Beomhan is often associated with controversies rather than his music. Now, a recent incident involving accusations of misogyny, ableism, and trivializing serious issues sparked backlash even from non-fans, leading many to ask the question, is he the most controversial idol in K-pop? Beomhan's journey started on January 31st, 2020, when he became a member of the pre-debut group MONT Arena. Being a trainee from a relatively unknown company wasn't what made Beomhan popular with the public, especially international netizens. It was actually his humor. He was pretty active on social media, which made him feel more down-to-earth, especially to younger audiences who could easily connect with him. In addition, his honesty and lack of a filter made him seem more like someone people could relate to rather than an untouchable idol, but it also got him into a lot of trouble. For example, back in 2022, he once declared that idols idols shouldn't date because they would be betraying their fans. According to Beomhan, while it may not be a real relationship, the bond between idols and fans is important. To him, if fans are spending money to see an idol perform, it feels unfair for the idol to spend that same money on personal gifts for someone else. This statement received heavy backlash as people pointed out that Beomhan was just feeding into the fantasies of delusional fans and giving them even more reasons to be delusional. However, 2 years later, Beomhan apologized for his statement on Instagram Live, acknowledging that he had no right to judge others and that this was a valuable lesson for him to be more careful in the future. He later realized his opinion was influenced by his K-pop training, which led him to project those views, but he understood it was wrong. Since Beomhan had apologized and given a reasonable explanation for his line of thinking, this scandal was mostly forgotten as another topic took people's attention. As mentioned, Beomhan has been very open with fans about everything, from his trainee life to the struggles with his mental health. However, on March 8th of 2023, he did an especially concerning live stream in which he admitted that he had attempted to take his own life in the summer of 2022, which he told his therapist about. Even though Beomhan tried to change the subject and make the live stream more lighthearted, fans were still concerned to no end, fearing for his mental well-being. Then, a few months later, things got worse as Beomhan went live on social media once again, warning fans beforehand that the topics he was going to discuss were pretty heavy. Among other things, he mentioned that he had gone 2 days without eating, and it probably would have been more if the fans hadn't intervened. In a concerning twist, he admitted that he hadn't left his room ever since he got back to Korea and said that his actions were a cry for help. Then he gave yet another trigger warning before showing his scars of self-harm as he stated, "I've been going live with short sleeves this whole time. Do I sometimes cry for help? Yes, but also, it's not your responsibility to help me." True to his nature, he started talking about less serious topics as if he didn't admit to harming himself and showed his scars. The live stream started a lot of discussions, with most fans being understandably concerned at what Beomhan had revealed, feeling devastated about the state he was in. There were also questions about why the company wasn't taking any steps to help him with his mental health. As it turns out, though, they didn't care about his well-being and even saw him as a burden. Just a week after the live stream, on September 6, 2023, FM Entertainment terminated his contract. In their statement, they said that the termination had been a mutual decision as both sides had acknowledged that they were going in different directions. They said, "Beomhan has distorted the truth on numerous occasions and spread misleading information during live broadcasts. Consequently, other FM artists and fans have experienced significant mental distress and stress as a result." They also mentioned having gathered all the evidence related to the false claims Beomhan made during his live broadcasts and would sue him if he continued to spread allegedly incorrect claims. This aggressive statement garnered a lot of explosive reactions, with fans accusing the company of mistreating its trainees and then attempting to hide it by threatening to sue Beomhan. According to the things he had said, the company allegedly didn't provide him with health insurance or financial support during a shoulder surgery he had. He also claimed he wasn't given proper food, which is why he didn't eat for over 2 days. On top of that, he wasn't even allowed to speak freely with his therapist because the company feared he might overshare, leaving him to handle everything alone. However, with their statement, the company portrayed him as the villain, which shocked and hurt him when he saw it. Despite the termination of his contract, Beomhan kept his head up and kept doing his thing. However, that didn't mean that he stayed free of controversies. One of them involved his behavior at a club as he allegedly skipped the line at a Hongdae club and attempted to fight the bouncer. In response, Beomhan admitted that he had indeed been at a club in Hongdae, but had to get out because he started having a panic attack due to the overwhelming atmosphere. He then tried to re-enter the club, and he showed the bouncer his stamp just like any other person coming back inside. He then described how the bouncer stopped him and his friend, pushing him roughly. In response, he pushed the bouncer's hand away. Beomhan admitted that he was dealing with some personal struggles at the time, and while he thought the bouncer's actions felt exaggerated, he took responsibility for what he did. He also faced SA allegations, which turned out to be false, and was accused of hitting a fan's car and then driving away. However, none of these controversies turned out to be as serious as the one he has just recently been involved in. Just days after Donald Trump's election as US president, Beomhan hosted a live stream on November 8th. His fans, especially women, people of color, and those in the LGBTQ+ community, were obviously upset and hoped he would offer words of comfort during the stream, given how outspoken he had been in the past. Instead, Beomhan made sarcastic comments, jokingly saying, "Rest in peace, women," and mockingly jokingly congratulating Trump. He even parodied Kanye West's interruption of Taylor Swift at the VMAs. While some fans saw it as his way of using humor to handle a difficult moment, others felt it was an inappropriate time for jokes, especially when so many, particularly women, were deeply impacted by Trump's election. Just like with his remarks about idols dating, Beomhan saw all the backlash directed toward him and decided to apologize. After the live stream, he made a tweet admitting he had made light of a sensitive issue. He explained that his jokes were intended to ease the tension for those struggling, but acknowledged his words could have hurt others. He reaffirmed his support for women's rights and promised to express it more clearly in the future. This time, though, a simple apology didn't cut it. Many responded to his tweet, urging him to back his words with actions and prove he was genuinely sorry. Instead of following through, he retracted his apology, told everyone to shut up, and lashed out, telling people to direct their frustration elsewhere and bother someone else. It didn't end there. Beomhan posted yet another tweet explaining that his behavior was his way of coping and claiming he was just a target for others' anger. In a follow-up post, he stated he planned to go live on Instagram and end his career, saying he'd been anticipating this moment since July 2022, which is when he said he had attempted to take his own life. Then he went on another Instagram live where he went around campus for about 20 to 30 minutes, yelling at the viewers, cursing them out in misogynistic terms, and saying ableist slurs. He also completely disregarded their criticism, telling people they were stupid and hateful. While his previous tweets had sparked significant backlash, his Instagram live drew attention even from people unfamiliar with him, adding fuel to the fire. Some noted the irony of Beomhan feeling secure enough to roam alone at night, shouting and cursing, all because he was criticized for his insensitive comments. Another one said, all Beomhan had to do was take accountability for what he said, but instead, he's acting like when a child gets sent to timeout. Once again, Beomhan apologized for his remarks in two other tweets, in which he clarified he was not a Trump supporter. He also said that he didn't mean to diminish women's struggles and stated that he was just repeating a slur somebody was saying it to him and didn't say it himself. In yet another apology post, he expressed gratitude to those holding him accountable and promised to take steps to regain their trust. While admitting to past struggles with mental health, he acknowledged that it didn't excuse his recent actions, explaining that his outburst came after years of pent-up frustration, but committed to seeking professional help to better understand and address his emotions. If you thought the situation couldn't get any messier, you would be wrong. A person claiming to be a former staff member who worked closely with Beomhan alleged that his social media behavior reflects his true nature, sparking concerns about what might happen off-camera. Meanwhile, Day 6 member Jay urged empathy, suggesting Beomhan might be experiencing a manic episode and pleading for accountability without risking his well-being. Words he took back once he got more context about what was happening. Because the issue had become so big that it reached even non-fans, Beomhan felt the need to address the accusations against him once again. In a live stream after the incident, he took responsibility for his actions and apologized for what he said. He also acknowledged that his cursing outburst and the chaotic Instagram live were irresponsible and inappropriate, especially since his fans were watching. Beomhan clarified that his anger wasn't aimed at those calling him out, but at the people spreading hate. However, he admitted his actions were inappropriate, especially with fans watching. He apologized again, admitting he handled things poorly, but clarified he never threatened self-harm and reassured fans that he is seeking therapy and counseling for his mental health. Despite all the explanations, people were still wary of him, but acknowledged that what he needed was to take a social media break. A user commented, "He needs to leave social media and the public sphere for the sake of his own mental health. The past few weeks have shown that he is not cut out for the idol life regardless of his musical ability." Beomhan has decided to take a break to focus on his mental health and seek professional help before returning, and given everything that's happened recently, this seems like the right step for him. Finally, it's not always just personal missteps. Sometimes the actions of others play a role. In 5 K-pop idols who ruined another idol's career, we'll explore how one idol's choices can have devastating effects on someone else's path in the industry. When K-pop scandals hit, the impact often spreads beyond the idols involved, affecting those around them and sometimes even destroying other idols' careers entirely. One of K-pop's most surprising scandals is when one group member decided to suddenly throw the other under the bus, seemingly with no reason. Secret's HyunA caused quite a stir when she one day suddenly revealed intimate facts about her fellow group member Seunhwa while guest starring on a variety show. HyunA decided to share how Seunhwa acts when she drinks, something which caused great consequences for the latter's reputation at the time. She described Seunhwa as someone who starts to complain and whine about the whole world when she drinks, and the comment quickly became a topic of conversation among fans as it seemed to reveal a personal side of Seunhwa that hadn't been seen before. Seunhwa wasn't happy with how she was portrayed as she quickly took to social media to defend herself against HyunA's words. She explained that they had only drunk together a few times, and during one of those times, she had confided in HyunA about her frustrations with the ditzy image she had gained on variety shows like Invincible Youth. Seunhwa attempted to clarify that she wasn't unhappy with everything, but just the image she was stuck with on TV. She also made it clear that she felt quite a bit of resentment toward HyunA, who had seemingly made her seem like she had a negative outlook on life. In addition, Seunhwa mentioned that there were parts of the situation that fans weren't aware of, hinting that the full story wasn't out in the open. However, she emphasized that her problem wasn't with HyunA directly, but instead with how she was portrayed publicly after her words had been aired. While the situation didn't seem like a major scandal at first, it was the fact that the two had apparently had a huge fight that had fans speculating about more drama happening behind the scenes. After all, it's rare for idols to bring such internal group matters to the public eye. Unfortunately for Seunhwa, the incident did have lasting effects on her career, as HyunA's comments had put her in an uncomfortable position, and many believe it impacted how she was viewed in the industry. Seunhwa's attempt to defend herself through social media and fan forums didn't seem to fix the damage that had been done, and the fallout from the situation continued to cast a dark shadow over her career. Big Hit's original girl group Glam faced some slightly different issues, as one member's scandal seemed to put the company off girl groups for almost a decade. The group originally debuted in 2012 with 5 members, but quickly ran into trouble when one member left not long after their debut. Officially, it was said to be due to personal reasons, but rumors circulated that she was asked to leave because she was allegedly a Sasang fan of Super Junior's Lee Took. However, these rumors were never confirmed, and the exact reason for her departure remains unknown to this day. From then on, the group continued as 4 members, but in 2014, Glam found themselves at the center of a huge scandal that would eventually end their career. Dahi, one of the group's members, was arrested and accused of blackmailing and extorting popular actor Lee Byung-hun. Dahi had allegedly threatened to release a compromising video of the actor along with another woman unless he paid them a large sum of money. Netizens were shocked when Dahi was found guilty of these charges and even sentenced to jail time. To nobody's surprise, the scandal destroyed Glam's reputation, and in 2015, Big Hit Entertainment decided to disband the group, stating that their contracts had ended. Unfortunately, the whole thing not only ended Glam's career but also crushed the dreams of the remaining members, as they never got a chance to shine fully in the industry after Dahi's conviction. Following this incident, Big Hit Entertainment avoided debuting girl groups for several years, and many fans believed that it was Dahi's actions that had turned Big Hit away from female idols. As for Dahi, despite the scandal, she has moved on with her life as she now works as a model and an Africa TV model, reportedly earning quite a large sum of money every month. Even though she's no longer involved in the K-pop world, her story continues to be one of the most infamous in the industry. Another notorious scandal in K-pop involved Tiara's Hwyong, who left the group in 2012 and single-handedly ruined all the momentum and popularity that Tiara had built until then. At the time, Hwyong claimed that she had been mistreated by her fellow members, especially Jiyeon and Eunjung, who allegedly traumatized her by shunning and ignoring her. The accusations quickly gained traction, with Hwyong's twin sister Hyo-young also coming forward to support the claims. Afterward, fans and netizens alike found old videos where Hwyong appeared to be mistreated by the other members, which had the public completely turn on the rest of the group, convinced that they were the perpetrators. Jiyeon and Eunjung were especially singled out as the cruelest members of the group, and the media frenzy that followed was intense. Some even claimed that the mistreatment had been so obvious that fans wondered how it had gone unnoticed for so long. However, despite the piling rumors and Hwyong's allegations, the truth behind the situation turned out to be a lot more complicated than anyone had expected. As the scandal spiraled, Tiara's former manager came forward in 2017 and said that the claims of mistreatment had been nothing but a lie. The manager shockingly revealed that, in reality, the other members were the ones who had suffered from Hwyong's behavior, and her allegations only added to the damage she had caused them. Unfortunately, by the time the truth came out, it was too late to save Tiara's career, as public opinion had turned against them and their reputation was forever tarnished. Unable to recover from the controversy, Tiara concluded their activities a few months later, with the group struggling to continue in the spotlight. Mistreatment scandals in the industry have only multiplied over the years, as former April member Hyunju also stepped forward to reveal that she had been tormented by her groupmates for several years. Hyunju decided to take to Instagram in April of 2021 to describe the suffering that she faced during her time in the group, something which had been ongoing since 2014 when she was just 17 years old. According to Hyunju, the mistreatment lasted for several years until she left the group in 2016. Initially, it was her younger brother who stepped forward to reveal what had happened to Hyunju during her time in April, which led her to reveal the details of exactly what she had endured. Her Instagram post made things clear, saying, "During those 3 years, I was forced to suffer because of violent actions and behavior, ridicule, swearing, and attacks on my character." According to her, their agency DSP Media media were fully aware of what had been going on during her time in the group, but had simply chosen to do nothing to stop it, which only made her feel more isolated and unsupported. Hyunju even revealed that the situation became so unbearable that she attempted to take her own life in 2016, as she could feel herself falling into a darkness she couldn't escape. What made things even worse was that even after her attempt, her agency and group members showed no concern or remorse for her suffering, which only deepened her trauma. In response to these accusations, DSP Media released a statement denying Hyunju's claims, calling her post a one-sided, distorted assertion that is far from the objective truth. Several members of April also spoke out, denying the accusations. April's HyunA stepped forward to say, "I always felt that one member was constantly pushing us away. When something happened to all of us, she thought of herself as the only victim." Chaewon also denied the accusations while also dismissing rumors that she had been dating their manager at the time, calling it complete nonsense. However, despite the denials, Hyunju stood strongly by her claims, and because of this, DSP Media decided to file lawsuits against her and her brother as they claimed defamation. This led to all of Hyunju's professional activities being halted, making it nearly impossible for her to continue her career. Unfortunately, nothing has seemed to work out for her long-term ever since the lawsuits, but despite the trauma and struggles, Hyunju has vowed not to give up, saying, "From now on, I will no longer stand by without taking action to protect myself, my family, and my acquaintances." But perhaps one of K-pop's biggest scandals happened when HyunA and Dawn made their relationship public in 2018, becoming one of the few public idol couples, something which sent ripples throughout the industry. While many fans praised HyunA for being so open and admired her confidence in living her truth, the fallout for Dawn's group Pentagon was extremely severe. Pentagon was still a rookie group at the time with only 2 years under their belt, and they were slowly building their fan base. However, the dating scandal, combined with a series of other rumors, sparked a downfall that many fans believe was mostly the cause for the group's downfall. The drama kicked off in August 2018 as numerous dating rumors involving the Pentagon members exploded in a matter of a few days. HyunA, for example, was caught in a dating scandal with Soojin of Idol on August 2nd, and then rumors surfaced about Pentagon's Yuto dating Yi-eun from CLC not long after. However, the most shocking news was HyunA and Dawn's confirmed relationship. Despite Cube Entertainment initially denying the speculations about them being a couple, HyunA took to social media to set the record straight. She wanted to be honest with her fans and, in her words, just wanted to be truthful. While HyunA's fans were quick to support her decision, the consequences for Dawn and the Pentagon were brutal. Fans of Pentagon, especially those who were new to the group, were less forgiving, and Pentagon wasn't prepared for the storm that followed. Fans went as far as returning 500 tickets to the fan club event for their new official fandom, and their promotions were severely impacted as fans boycotted the group. Even Triple H, the project group that included HyunA, Dawn, and HyunA, saw their events being cancelled, and eventually the group disbanded due to the backlash. At the time, many saw HyunA's decision as selfish, given that Pentagon was still trying to establish themselves in the industry. While HyunA was already a veteran in K-pop with over 10 years of experience and a solid fan base of her own, Dawn and Pentagon were still finding their place. The negative reactions were immediate, and while Triple H disbanded, Pentagon was left to pick up the pieces. Many fans left the fandom altogether, feeling betrayed by the dating news, and for a rookie group, losing such a significant part of their fan base was a huge blow, one that took them years to recover from. Looking back, many people still wonder what could have been for Pentagon had the scandals not occurred. Despite everything, the group has continued to release music and gain fans over the years, but the scandal marked a turning point for them, and some still view it as the moment when their career path changed forever. At the end of the day, these stories show just how fragile success can be in the K-pop world. One mistake, one controversy, or even someone else's actions can completely change the course of an idol's career. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what's next.